Today we come to chapter 11. In this chapter, two kinds of meditation are treated. And I'm afraid the first one may not be popular with the people in the West. It is the perception of repulsiveness in nutriment. But we must understand that this meditation is not for not eating, not for refraining from eating, but it is eating with greed, eating with non-attachment, eating without greed, and eating with non-attachment. Because whether you are a lay person or a monk, you have to eat enough to keep you healthy and to keep you in a good shape. So this is eating without attachment. And in order to get rid of attachment, we have to get the perception of repulsiveness in food. And this book is meant for monks, and so monks have to practice restraint in all areas, and so with regard to eating too, there should be restraint. And especially in the teachings of Theravada Buddhism, when we eat, what we eat is not so important as how we eat. So the way we eat is much more important than what we eat. So when we eat, we try to arouse this perception of repulsiveness in food, and so we do not get too much attached to food. So now comes the description of the development of perception of repulsiveness in nutriment. Actually, I think we should translate this word as food, although the Pali word ahara can mean nutriment as well as food. According to Abhidhamma, the word ahara means nutriment, but in popular usage, the word ahara means food. So repulsiveness in food, so which was listed as the one perception next to the immaterial states. And then the commentator defines the word ahara, the Pali word ahara. It nourishes. So literally, it brings on. Thus, it is nutriment. So thus, it is food. That is of four kinds: as physical nutriment, nutriment consisting of contact, nutriment consisting of mental volition, and nutriment consisting of consciousness. Now, these four things are called by the name of ahara in Pali, by the name of food or by the name of nutriment. The first one is physical nutriment. In fact, it is not a direct translation of the Pali word. The Pali word is kabalikara. You will find the word down in the footnote 2. Kabalingkara ahara. Now, in the word kabalingkara, there's the word kabala. Kabala means a handful. We do not call food a mouthful, but we use the word handful, because we eat with hands, and when monks eat, they pick up the food in their hands and then make it into something like a ball and then put it in their mouth. So this handful is called Kabbalah in Pali. So the word comes to mean food in general. So Kabbalikara, it is translated as physical nutriment here. But according to Abhidhamma, what is ahara is not the whole food itself, but it's called oja, nutritive essence, which contained in the food, and that is what is called ahara according to Abhidhamma. Although here physical nutriment or Pali word kabalinkara ahara is used, we must understand that it means the nutritive essence in the food. So that is one food. Nutriment consisting of contact means contact is also called food. Contact is a mental factor, and that is also called food. And then the next is mental volition. So volition is also called food. And the last one is consciousness. So in one of the sutras, Buddha said there are 4 kinds of food, and these are mentioned. So they are called food because they nourish something. Then the question is, which nourishes what? So I think the first line in paragraph 2 should say like that. But which nourishes what? Simply that. Now, physical nutriment, kabalinkara ahara, nourishes or brings on the materiality of the object that has nutritive essence as 8. You need some Abhidhamma to understand this. There are material particles, material qualities or material properties, and there are said to be 28. And these 28 material properties arise in groups. And some group has 8 material properties in it, some have 9, some have 10, some have 11, and so on. The least number of material properties contained in a group is 8. So anywhere, it is said that according to Abhidhamma, anywhere we find these 8 material properties, in living beings or in outside things. But here, the 8 is said to be what? Nutriment, material of the object, that has nutritive essence as 8. That means, you remember the eight material qualities? The 4 primaries, and then color, smell, taste, and this one, this ahara or oja. So these are said to be found everywhere where there is matter or material properties. And these 8 are the result of or caused by karma, or sometimes caused by citta, consciousness, sometimes caused by temperature or climate, and sometimes by ahara, nutriment. Now here, that caused by nutriment is needed. So the kabalinkara ahara brings on or nourishes the 8 material properties, which are caused by it or ahara. So that is why the nutritive essence is called ahara or physical nutriment in Pali language. The second one is contact, as nutriment nourishes the 3 kinds of feeling. When there is contact, there is feeling, right? And in the 12 link patit, dependent origination, feeling is conditioned by what? Contact. So contact is said to nourish or said to bring the 3 kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. If there is no contact, there will be no feeling. So contact is said to be the condition of feeling. Mental volition as nutriment nourishes, brings on rebirth linking in the 3 kinds of becoming. Now mental volition means cetana. Actually, mental volition means karma or sankhara in the dependent origination, the second link, karma formations. So mental volition is karma formation. And so what does it bring? It brings patisandhi, rebirth linking in the three kinds of becoming. That is sensuous becoming, fine material becoming, and immaterial becoming. Consciousness as nutriment nourishes mentality, materiality at the moment of rebirth linking. This is also to be understood with reference to the dependent origination. So consciousness conditions mentality, materiality, or mind and matter. At the moment of rebirth, there is rebirth consciousness, and together with rebirth consciousness, there are mental factors, and also there are material properties caused by karma in the past. So what we call rebirth is the rebirth consciousness, its concomitants, and karma-born matter. So consciousness, or here actually rebirth consciousness, nourishes or is the condition for mind and matter. Mind and matter here means the mental factors and material properties. So they are that. So it is called ahara, in English, nutriment. Now, when there is physical nutriment, there is attachment, which brings peril. That means the danger in physical nutriment is attachment. So, because we are attached to food, so when we eat food, we get attachment. So the danger in physical nutriment is attachment. When there is nutriment as contact, there is approaching, coming together, and that brings perils, or that is the danger. And when there is nutriment as mental volition, there is reappearance. Reappearance means rebirth in different existences, which brings peril. So mental volition, rebirth is a danger in mental volition because it brings about rebirth. And when there is nutriment as consciousness, there is rebirth linking. That means the mental volition gives rebirth. So actually something like throwing down something, that is the function of mental volition. And the rebirth itself, the rebirth consciousness itself, is a danger in consciousness. So rebirth linking is danger in consciousness. And to show how they bring fear thus, physical nutriment should be illustrated by the simile of the child's flesh. Now, S298, that is Kindred Sayings, Volume 2, page 68 following. In that sutta, Buddha said, the real food should be regarded as one's own child's flesh. And the second one, what? Contact should be regarded as hideless cow. And mental volition should be regarded as a pit of live coals. And consciousness should be regarded as 100 spears. You have to read that sutta to understand this. So the first one is explained by way of a story, not an actual story, but just a simile. So two people, husband and wife, with the child went on a journey, and then they were going through a desert, and they have lost everything. So they were thirsty, they were hungry, and so they decided to eat the flesh of their child, just to get out of that wilderness. So when they eat the flesh of their child, they do not feel happy, but they may eat with tears and so on. And so in the same way, the food should be eaten with that kind of perception, as though you are eating the flesh of your own child. So when you have to eat the flesh of your own child, you cannot have any attachment with the flesh. Something like that. And contact as nutriment by the simile of hideless cow. So a cow whose skin or hide is taken off. So wherever it goes, it will be bitten by flies, mosquitoes, and so on. So in the air, or even it goes into the water, wherever it goes, there are these flies and others to bite or to sting it. So in the same way, when there is contact, there is always feeling. So contact is accompanied always by feeling. So feeling is compared to biting of insects and so on.
Unpleasant feeling?
Unpleasant feeling, that's right. And mental volition as nutriment by the simile of pit of life coals. So nobody wants to fall into the pit of life coals, because it brings, suffering. So in the same way, mental volition throws us into a new existence. And when we are reborn in a new existence, we suffer the dukkha inherent in that life. So it is to be regarded as a pit of life coals. And the last one is consciousness nutriment by the simile of 100 spears. That is a thief, a caught, and then sentenced to be executed, and he would be carried through the streets and then give 100 blows here, 100 blows there, and so on. And then some of them are explained, I think in the footnote. Yeah. Yes. Now, out of these 4 kinds of nutriment, or what are called nutriment, only one, the first one, will be treated. Only the first one is relevant in this chapter for this kind of meditation. Now, in the footnote, the explanations are given, and I hope you have read it. Now, about the middle of the footnote, approaching is explained as meeting, coinciding with unabandoned perversions of perception due to an object being perceived as permanent, etc., when it is not. So, I think that is a little incorrect. Now, what is meant is the approaching is meeting, coinciding, or coming into contact. Not with unabandoned perversions, but for those whose perversions are yet unabandoned. So, he misunderstood the Pali compound word here. Pali compounds are very difficult to decide what they mean. The same word may mean 2 different things. So here what really is meant is for those whose perversions are yet unabandoned, meeting with an object. So when we meeting with an object, that meeting with an object is perilous, and it is not free from the 3 kinds of suffering. So when there is meeting with the object, there is contact and feeling. Okay, we'll go back. So out of these 4, it is only physical nutriment, classed at what is eaten, drunk, chewed, and tasted. And tasted here, it will be explained later. Perception, that is intended here as nutriment in this sense. So the food is intended as ahara or nutriment in this chapter. The perception arisen as the apprehension of the repulsive aspect in that nutriment is perception of repulsiveness in nutriment. One who wants to develop the perception of repulsiveness in nutriment should learn the meditation subject and all these things. So, we should develop or arouse the perception of repulsiveness in 10 ways. That is what? As to going for food. It is for monks. Going for food, seeking food, using means eating food, secretions, receptacle, what is undigested, what is digested, and then result or fruit outflow, and then smearing. So all these are designed to help us to get a sense of repulsiveness towards food. So nowadays people say, please enjoy food, please enjoy food. Here we don't enjoy, but we eat with this kind of reflection, so that we don't get attached to food. Now the first one, going. So a monk has to go out every day for alms in the morning. So this passage is for monks. Even when a man has gone forth in so mighty a dispensation, still after he has perhaps spent all night reciting the enlightened one's work or doing the ascetics work, that means doing meditation. After he has risen early to do the duties connected with the shrine terrace and the enlightenment tree terrace, to set out the water for drinking and washing, to sweep the grounds and to see to the needs of the body, after he has sat down on his seat and given attention to his meditation subject 20 or 30 times. Now, 20 or 30 times, it is not so clear. And I think the sub-commentary also did not know exactly what is meant. Because in the footnote you will see different opinions are given. Now, here some say that the definition of the number of times is according to what is present by continuity. That means one continuity after another. Now, when you enter a cell from light, first you cannot see clearly, because you came from light. So after some seconds or minutes, you can see. So that is called one continuity. And if you go out, the same thing will happen. So you go out from the dark into the light. You will not see clearly as soon as you go out. You have to adapt to the difference of light or illumination. So in this way, the time should be taken to mean this continuity, one continuity after another. That is opinion of some. But others say that it is by way of warming up the seat. So if you set for some time, then the seat becomes warm. The development that has not reached suppression of hindrances does not remove the bodily discomfort in the act of sitting because of the lack of pervading happiness. So before you get good concentration, you will still want to move. You want to change your position every now and then. So one heating up of the position is what is meant by time here. That is what the others say. And then what about 20 and 30? Now 20 and 30 is taken as the number already observed by the time of setting out on the alms round. In fact, it means taken as the number by the noted and by the formally noted time of setting out. Say, I will set out for alms at such a time. So that is decided beforehand. So the number means, say, by according to modern times, we will say I will go out at 6:30. So before 6:30, until 6:30, you will be practicing meditation, something like that.
So this last one is the one that Buddha Gosa thinks is most likely?
No, another will come. Alternatively, from going to up to smelling is one turn, one time. So that means there are 10 reflections to be made. So from the first reflection to the 10th reflection, you get one round, one turn, one time. So that means the monk contemplates on these by these 10 ways 20 times or 30 times before he gets up and go for alms. Actually, not clear which is meant, so we can take the last one. So 20 or 30 times and got up again, then he must take his bowl and outer robe and so on. So that is the, with respect to going, food is...
So, for instance, one way to understand this maybe is if his meditation subject is the breath, it could be 20 or 30 breaths.
No. It could be, say, when you use breath as an object, you say in one, out one, in two, out two, in three, out three, until 10. That would be one time. Then and then again in one, out one, in two, out two, until in 10, out 10.
That's two.
And then 2, and so on. And in paragraph 7, line 3, what is geckos?
Geckos are little animals, they sometimes eat cockroaches and insects.
Oh.
They're little lizards.
Yeah, house lizard, right?
Yeah.
It's a small house lizard. We don't see many of them here in this country.
Well, actually, at one house meeting here when we discussed how to take care of the cockroaches, somebody suggested that we have pet geckos.
Oh.
That's how I know what a gecko is.
Yeah. So, and then on next page, paragraph 8, in due course, after standing in the debating lodge, I don't know whether that can be called debating, because it is a place where standing a monk decides which way to go for alms round. So in a lodge, for thinking in the way beginning, where must I go for alms today? So maybe there are 2 or 3 villages not far from the monastery. So he may go to one village on one day and to another village the other day. So he decides which way to go or which village to go, standing in that lodge, in that place. So that is translated as debating lodge. He may be debating internally which village to go. So he did all these things, and this is the robustness of food with regard to going. And then as to seeking, after going to the village, a monk must go from one house to another. So when he has endured the robustiveness of going in this way and has gone into the village and is clothed in his cloak of patches, he has to wander in the village streets from house to house like a beggar with a dish in his hand and so on. And it may not be so bad nowadays, and also in Buddhist countries. But if not all of the people are Buddhists, then some may just drive us away if we go and stand in front of their houses. So you see here on page 376, paragraph 12, others treat him with harsh words such as, "Go away, you bald head." When we were in Sri Lanka, we do not know which house is a Buddhist and which house is not. So sometimes we stood in front of a house of a Christian or house of a Muslim, and when Buddhists saw us, they just dragged us to their house. Don't stand there. But they will not drive us away. But it might have happened in the olden days when people are not all Buddhists. So that is seeking. Number 3, the third is how as to using. As to using really means as to eating. Sometimes to be literal may miss the real point. So here using a food means just eating. So in eating too there is repulsiveness. See? And because it is India, Sri Lanka and Burma are tropical countries, so when you have to go from your monastery to the village and then go on the rounds, you may be sweating. And so your hands may be smeared with sweat. So that's why here it's said, and sitting at ease in a comfortable place out of the village, then so long as he has not dipped his hand into it, he would be able to invite a respected bhikkhu or a decent person if he saw one to share it. But as soon as he has dipped his hand into it out of desire to eat, he would be ashamed to say, take some, because now the food is smeared with his sweat or something. So this is eating. He put it in the mouth and then jaws doing the function of pestle and the other a mortar and so on. So we have to contemplate on this when we eat. I don't know whether it would be good to eat thinking of this. You may even want to vomit. Now, footnote 13, Kamasat, jelly. Usually rendered junket. I don't know what junket is. But the Vinaya commentaries give it as made of corn, yawa. Yawa is not corn. It is barley or wheat.
Junket is a custard.
Yeah.
Junket is custard.
A pudding or custard.
Oh.
But it should be, it's made of barley or wheat.
Barley or wheat, some kind of something like rice. Not necessarily jelly. Then, as to secretions, here, Buddhas and Pachika Buddhas and wheel-turning monarchs have only one of the 4 secretions consisting of bile, phlegm, pus and blood. I don't know whether that is true. And I, here also...
which one do they have, or it could be any one?
Any one. So the only is not needed here. So instead of only, I want to say any. Have any one of them, not only. And I think we should say even Buddhas and Pachika Buddhas and wheel-turning monarchs have any one of the 4 secretions consisting of bile, phlegm, pus and blood. But those with weak merits have all 4. So when the food has arrived at the stage of being eaten and it enters inside, then in one whose secretion of bile is in excess, it becomes as utterly nauseating as if smeared with thick maduga oil. So maduga is also difficult to translate. A kind of seed which gives oil.
I'm sure it's not appetizing.
No, and it is thick oil. So in one whose secretion of phlegm is in excess, it is as if smeared with the juice of nagabala leaves, maybe what do you call sticky substance. You get the sticky substance from that kind of leaf. Maybe something like, what do you call that? Lady's finger?
Okra. Okra.
Okra? Uh-huh.
Okay.
It can be sticky, especially if it's overcooked.
Uh-huh. Something like that. In one whose secretion of pus is in excess, it is as if smeared with rancid buttermilk. And in one whose secretion of blood is in excess, it is as utterly nauseating as if smeared with the dye. So this is how repulsiveness should be reviewed as to secretion. And then as to receptacle. when it has gone inside the belly and is smeared with one of these secretions, then the receptacle, it goes into its gold dish or crystal or silver dish and so on and so on. And then 19. As to what is undigested, uncooked here means undigested. So there is, we believe that there is something like a fire in the stomach, and that fire, that heat, digests the food. So it is not yet digested. And the next one is what is cooked, what is digested. When it has been completely cooked there by the bodily fires, it does not turn into gold, silver, etc., as the ores of gold, silver, etc. do through smelting. Instead, giving off froth and bubbles, it turns into excrement and fills the receptacle for digested food, like brown clay squeezed with a smoothing trowel and packed into a tube. So receptacle for digested food really means later part of the intestines. And it turns into urine and fills the bladder. This is how repulsiveness should be reviewed as to what is cooked. As to fruit, that means as to the result, when it has been rightly cooked, it is well digested, it produces the various kinds of odor consisting of head hairs, body hairs, and so on. That is, when it is digested well. When wrongly cooked, that is, when it is not digested, it produces 100 diseases beginning with itch, ringworm, smallpox, leprosy, plague, consumption, cough, flux, and so on. Such is its fruit. This is how repulsiveness should be reviewed as to fruit. And then as to outflow, on being swallowed, it enters by one door, after which it flows out by several doors in the way beginning, eye dirt from the eye, ear dirt from the eye, and so on. And on being swallowed, it was swallowed even in the company of large gathering, but on flowing out, now converted into excrement, urine, etc., it is excreted only in solitude and so on. So that is repulsiveness as to outflow. And then smearing. At the time of using it, he smears his hands, lips, tongue, and palate, and they become repulsive by being smeared with it. And even when washed, they have to be washed again and again in order to remove the smell. That's very true. But when you eat with your hand, sometimes the dishes may be smelly, and the smell sticks to the finger for a long time. And just as when rice is being boiled, the husk, the red powder covering the grain, etc., rise up and smear the mouth, rim, and lid of the cauldron, so too when eaten, it rises up during its cooking and simmering by the bodily fire that pervades the whole body. It turns into tartar, which smears the teeth, and it turns into spittles, phlegm, etc., which respectively smear the tongue, palate, etc., and so on, and so on. Now, about 3 or 4 lines down, and after one has washed a certain one of these, the hand has to be washed again, and that is number 17, right? I think that number should be moved to 1 line down. And after one has washed a certain one of these, second certain one of these, 17 should be there. And here, the first certain one of these means urinal orifice, and the second one means the anal orifice. So this is according to outflow, smearing. So we have got 10 ways of developing the perception of repulsiveness. And he reviews repulsiveness in this way in 10 aspects and strikes at it with thought and applied thought. Physical nutriment becomes evident to him in its repulsive aspect. He cultivates that sign again and again. Now, that sign, in other meditations, how many signs do we have? in other types of meditation. For example, Kasina meditation. You remember the signs? Yeah, 2 signs. What is the first sign? It is translated in this book as learning sign. That means grasp sign actually. And the other one is counterpart sign. In Pali, the first one is Uggaha Nimitta and the second one is Patibhaga Nimitta. So there are 2 kinds of signs. For example, if you practice Kasina disc meditation, when you have memorized the disc and when you can see in your mind with your eyes closed, yet you can see the disc, then you are said to have got the first kind of sign, learning sign or grasp sign. And later on, you concentrate on that sign again and again, and so it becomes very refined. And at that time, you are said to have got the second kind of sign. What sign? Counterpart sign. So counterpart sign is much more refined than the learning sign. So there are these 2 signs. But here, there is no such sign. But the sign here simply means the object of meditation. The footnote also means its verse, but it is very difficult to understand in the footnote, because it is a translation of the sub-commentary, and also it's not so understandable. So the sign here means just the object of meditation. The object of meditation is what here? The nutriment. Although we call it physical nutriment, actually it is what? It is the nutritive essence in the food. Now, nutritive essence in the food is Paramattha, ultimate reality. It is one of the 28 material properties. But the aspect of repulsiveness is concept. So through contemplating on the repulsiveness, you take the real thing as object. And that real thing is called Sabhava Dhamma, Dhamma that have individual essence. And Dhammas that have individual essence are by nature difficult to understand, by nature profound. Since in this meditation the object is profound, there can be no jhana. Samadhi reach only the access stage. So you cannot get jhana by practicing this kind of meditation, because the object is the object belongs to the dhammas which have individual essence, or in other words, the object belongs to the paramattha, the ultimate reality. So it is difficult to see. It is profound. So the jhana cannot reach absorption in this kind of meditation. It will reach only to the access stage. So that is what is meant by the footnote 18. He did not translate the whole passage. And here he gave his translation as the translation of the whole passage, but some lines are omitted here, so it doesn't seem really connected. And later, further down, that is an inaccuracy in the translation. So the sub-commentary gives two reasons for the jhana cannot reach absorption in this kind of meditation. The first is, it is because the occurrence of development is contingent only upon dhammas with an individual essence. That is, because this meditation has to take the dhamma with individual essence as object. And that dhamma with an individual essence is by nature profound, by nature difficult to see. That is why the samadhi cannot reach to the jhana stage in this meditation. So there is only